And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where you wear shredded beanies. Because this week we watched The Power of Kroll.
Written by Robert Holmes. Really wasn't that funny.
Directed by Norman Stewart.
And aired in December of 1978 and January of 79. We're in the last year of the 70s.
I know it's not that funny. I'm just having difficulty keeping it together. That joke we made immediately before we started recording. We're okay now. It is actually winter here, so beanies are actually a thing that are in effect.
Well, I'm not wearing a beanie. You're not wearing a beanie.
No. I do have one inside. I have a tortoise beanie I acquired recently, actually. But I'm not wearing it right now.
Dye it green and pretend to be a Delta Magnin moon person. I don't want to use the derogatory term.
What, swampy?
Yeah. It's a racial slur.
Right.
I think.
Well, my death count is just all swampy, and then they're like one named one.
Mensch. Anyway.
Yeah, so Robert Holmes returning to write another serial this season, and it's not as good of an effort as his previous one.
I don't know. You were saying you didn't like this serial very much. I didn't think it was great, but I didn't hate it.
I found it boring and just lackluster. I wouldn't say it was Stones of Blood, though.
No, it was better than Stones of Blood, yeah. My main complaint with this serial right off the bat is...
that they wrote out K9 in the first 2 minutes?
Well, that too. But also it was kind of like last week's where they didn't have anything to do with the key to time for the most part.
Yeah, even more so this week. I mean, they also resurrected the scanners not working plot that I greatly despise.
And the lost the scanner plot for a few minutes. Anyway, it starts with
Romana and the Doctor walking through the swamp going, man, K9 can't really walk through this swamp, can he? Like, no. It's like, okay, great, they're writing out K9, tune out, not interested.
Well, I guess they did film this on an actual swamp, so I guess they didn't want to get the prop messy.
Yeah, I guess. It just made the serial less interesting. Because part of what makes this season interesting is the Romana K9 Doctor banter.
Yeah.
And that's even lessened even more by this serial by the fact that Romana and the Doctor get split up in the first 10 minutes again.
Well, because K9 isn't in this serial at all, they gave John Leeson another part. He plays Dugeen, who's one of the operators at the secret facility that they're about to run into. Jinx, no.
Great.
Also, some of this, as we were saying before, was filmed on location, outside. Thankfully, they didn't do it at dusk like they did in Stones of Blood. But some of it was filmed on set, and apparently, I forget who it was.
The guy who designed the set?
Yeah. Apparently, he did such a bad job that he was asked not to return.
Don Giles?
Yes, him.
Honestly, I agree with that sentiment. They are some of the most uninteresting interior sets we've had this entire show. But we'll talk about that when they appear. So the Doctor and Romana are walking through the swamp. Romana's like, oh, weird. Scanner's getting a pretty faint signal. Can't really tell where it's coming from. It's like, okay. Haven't heard that one before.
Meanwhile, the guys at the base, the secret base we mentioned before, are looking for someone named Rom Dutt, who is some sort of weapons smuggler.
Yeah. Kind of like a Han Solo type character, I guess. Except way more shady and less morally.
No, he was kind of like, Lewis and Clark, Daniel Boone, ish, based on his, except a more dubious moral standing, based on...
I don't think he had any morals.
Well, he was kind of like that. Once the overall theme of this serial becomes apparent, which it does immediately when they start making these racist comments against the inhabitants of the moon they're on, which is a moon of Magna Delta.
Yeah. It's, they're the Swampies.
I don't know if that's a real place, like a real planet. I don't think it is.
I think they just slammed together two interesting sounding words.
Magna and Delta.
Yup.
Well, they're on the unnamed moon of Magna Delta, which is where the the Swampies, the green inhabitants of the moon, originally lived on Magna Delta. Then when the humans came, they kicked them off.
And moved them to the moon, but then the humans decided to invade the moon too.
Yeah, so this is clearly, blatantly, obviously a parallel with the American settlement where they just kept kicking the Native Americans off their land and promising that they wouldn't kick them off further and finding oil and...
Doing it anyway?
I mean gold, not oil.
I mean oil and gold.
Yeah.
Oil in the Midwest, gold in the West. Why is it called the Midwest, now that I think I guess it's called the Midwest because it's west from the 13 colonies. I get it now. That actually makes a lot of sense.
I'm glad you had that revelation during the episode.
It's important for our fans to listen to us, discovering the world as well as Doctor Who. So,
God, that sounds so wrong. Somehow.
So Romana gets captured by the Swampies.
Right,
and drops the scanner.
Yeah, they need to sacrifice some Dryfoots, which is what they call the humans, to Kroll, which is their guardian deity that they go into detail a little bit about later. But for now, he's just Kroll.
Yeah, they kind of just fling insults back and forth. Swampy, Dryfoot. They just got derogatory names for each other.
Yeah.
So the Doctor gets shot by the people working at the base. They're out hunting for...
Swampies, no.
They're hunting for the smuggler.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if Thorn was also trying to kill two birds with one stone, as he mentions later. But they just shoot the Doctor's hat. It's not actually him.
Yeah. Well, they shoot at him and they shoot his hat, and they're like, you killed the wrong man. He's like, no, you shot my hat. And they're like, oh, thank goodness. Now would be a good time to mention the Doctor's new coat, because the Post-4C has been wearing the same coat, but now he has a gray coat, like the one he had before, except this one has way more...
It's the sixth piece.
Flamboyant... Yeah, it'd be interesting if it was. But anyway, it has way more flamboyant lapels, like really huge lapels that he's adorned with swan pins, like a lot of swan pins. Like overkill. They're kind of cool though, in a way, in a weird sort of flamboyantly overkill manner.
All right.
The Doctor's also wearing Tom Baker actually is wearing the much longer scarf like we mentioned a couple weeks ago.
In a swamp.
Yeah. He flings it around his neck like 2 or 3 times. So he goes with these people to the secret base.
Well, they take him there. They take him, They question why he's a few miles away from their top secret facility, and then they proceed to take him to their top secret facility.
And he proceeds to let out that he knows a lot of information about the supposedly top secret facility. And they think he's like I guess an eco-terrorist of some sort.
They think he's from the Sons of Earth, which is a swampy sympathizer group from the actual planet. And I thought they kept mentioning the Sons of Earth, right? And I thought they were going to show up at some point and become some major thing, but no.
No.
I guess it's just world building stuff, but I question why.
Maybe that would have made the serial more interesting.
Maybe so.
So the Doctor reveals that he knows all about this methane/methane, depending on your pronunciation, processing facility.
Yeah, we say methane here in the land of the free and the home of the brave. One of those communist, fascist, Nazi pronunciations here.
You do realize that communism and fascism are opposite ends of the political spectrum, right?
Doesn't matter. I'm sure they both say methane, because I'm sure they're both not American. Anyway.
Jeez. Yeah, so the Doctor reveals how to make it more efficient, I guess, and they're like,
that's
wait
genius.
a minute. Yeah, they are. They're like, that's genius. And then the Doctor's like, yep, I'm just gonna leave now.
We forgot to mention that who these characters are. So there's Thorne, the leader, but then there's Dugeen, who's played by John Leeson. Mm-hmm. Because K9 isn't in this. And then there's Fenner, who's played by the guy who plays the War Lord in War Games like 10 years ago.
Right?
It looks nothing like he did back then.
Yeah, there's a 4th member, right?
Yeah, Harg, he dies.
Yeah.
Without doing much.
Yeah. So the Doctor's about to leave them and make a daring escape. But while that's happening, Romana has been tied to a rock and is being sacrificed to Kroll.
The Stone of Blood. They actually call it the Stone of Blood.
Yep.
Interestingly enough. What's his name? I almost said John Romita. Ron Dutt, or whatever he's called. The smuggler.
The gun runner.
Yeah. The Blade Runner. No. He's there too. He's obviously in league with the Swampies.
Yeah, he's just kind of just watching from the side, not intervening at all. Probably because he doesn't want to get himself killed either.
And probably because he doesn't want to upset his main source of income.
That's true. The true capitalist way. So episode 2 begins with the Doctor showing up and freeing Romana in the confusion created by the fact that a giant squid has shown up. It's apparently Kroll.
Yeah, it's Kroll. They summon Kroll because they need to appease him so he can protect them because the humans are about to blow them to smithereens. But it's not actually Kroll, it's just a guy dressed up as Kroll. Kind of like the, what's it called? From Stones of Blood.
Oh, I thought you were going to go for the thing guarding the entrance in the very first serial of the season. What was it called?
Oh, the dragon, the pathetic little dragon thing.
Yeah.
No, it looked kind of like, didn't look like the Kaliak. It reminded me of the Kaliak.
That was actually one of the things I did like about this serial was the special effects of Kroll attacking the base in episode 4.
I mean, it was essentially just the Crinoid again, but kind of worse.
But also kind of cool because it's in a swamp. It's also got one eye. I liked it. Hey, you liked this whole serial.
Yeah.
So
that's why that one part didn't really stand out to me that much.
So the Doctor saves Romana, and now Romana's like, oh no, I lost the scanner, and the Doctor's like, haha, well, I picked it up, so...
Yeah, that happened. Romana dropped the scanner, and the Doctor picked it up. Don't know why they even did that.
Neither do I, just for suspense, I guess. And that's the last we hear of the scanner till episode 4.
Yeah, they kind of just forget about it.
So, the Doctor is talking with Rom Dot, and he's like, yeah, I gave weapons to the Swampies. Yeah, it's just what I do. And they're like, So we cut back to the processing facility, and they see Kroll manifest on their like computer screens. Their late 70s CG computer screens.
Yeah.
And Thorn?
The leader, his name is Thon, I think.
Thon.
I don't know. I thought it was Thorn, but Thorn would have been cooler.
He thinks they should kill this giant squid thing.
Yeah, he thinks they should kill everyone who isn't them.
Well, yeah, that too. But I was getting there. He just, he advocates genocide, and the other 3 members are like, yeah, I'm not really down with genocide. It's...
Well, I mean, Fenner is, when he's held at gunpoint. So...
Well, I mean...
He was being held at
He was being held at gunpoint. If he said no, he would have been shot. Not that he doesn't get shot anyway. Spoilers. So
no, he doesn't get shot, does he? Fenner?
Yeah, he does.
When was that?
Oh no, Fenner's the one who survives.
Yeah, Dugeen gets shot.
Dugeen
He's the one who
shot.
doesn't advocate genocide, even when held at gunpoint, and he gets shot and dies. Poor John Leeson, his regular character isn't even here, and his cameo role dies. Whatever.
Well, anyway, Kroll manifests once again, and the Doctor's like, well, Kroll only manifests every couple of centuries for some reason.
They find this history book in the underground tombs.
That's what happened.
Which explains the history of the Delta Magnans and Kroll, conveniently, right when they need to know. That was one of my major problems with this serial, is they just find a book that tells them everything. So Kroll was manifested 3 times before, and apparently he's about to come out again.
Yeah, and then the doctor says some science mumbo jumbo about how he has a really long gestation cycle and he must have manifested because he's hungry and wants to eat, and that's why they always sacrifice people to Kroll and he just eats them. And
Yeah, the last person he ate was the high priest. I'm sure that. What are the chances of that happening again, right?
Also, the high priest had some sort of swampy amulet / artifact on him when he was eaten. I wonder what that is.
It should have been the doctor's coat. That would have been a surprise.
Changes his coat, and then it's revealed as the key to time. The final should be next week. The final piece. Anyway, Kroll busts up the processing facility a bit and kills Harg.
Yeah, I guess one of its tentacles made its way through the piping systems. And just bursts out and strangles Harg.
And he's like, ah! And everyone else is like, oh no!
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention Mensch, who was the swampy. He was the Uncle Tom. He was.
He dies, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gets killed by Kroll. That further proves to the Doctor that Kroll isn't a guardian deity and is actually just a squid.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Rankin, who is the leader, these characters really aren't very fleshed out now that I think about it. I still like the serial. Anyway, Rankin is like, no, he's the guardian deity. We can't upset him. And the Doctor's like, nope. Just a squid.
Well, I mean, considering you labeled him as Kroll fanboy.
Oh, yeah. I called him Kroll fanboy on my death count because I didn't know his name. Yeah, so that subplot with Mensch didn't really go anywhere.
No, well, in episode 3, the Doctor and Ramon are like, all right, so let's just go to the restoration facility. We'll, kill Kroll or something, and then we can leave and we'll be fine. And then Swampy's like, we're not going to let you do that. And the Doctor's like, ooh. And then
the Doctor and Romana go back to the swampy town for some reason, and they get captured. I guess they think they're gonna be A-OK there, but they're wrong. They and Ron Dutt, who's under suspicion now of being a traitor.
Gun running?
Yeah.
Doing the exact thing he is doing?
Yeah, well, the Swampies knew he was doing it. They just thought he was in league with what's-their-names when something bad happens and they blame it on him. Yeah. I forget what it was, though. Oh, the people at the base try and attack, and they think that Rom Dutt kind of gave away their location or something to that extent. I think they already knew their location, but something along those lines. Anyway, the point is that the Doctor, Romana, and the gun runner are about to be killed. In the 7th sacrifice of Kroll or something like that.
Yeah, the 7th
ritual of death. I don't know.
And what's his name? I think it was Ranquin, but it might have been someone else. Like, I advocated just submitting you guys to the first ritual. That's really easy. We just chuck you in a hole and throw rocks on you.
No, it wasn't Rankin. He was the one who wanted to kill everyone. He was like the counterpart to Thawne. They both wanted to kill everyone who wasn't them.
I don't know, I thought it was a really funny line where he was like, it was really easy, we just chuck you in a hole and throw rocks on you.
Yeah, why didn't they just do that? I guess they had to appease Kroll.
Yeah, but...
Turns out it didn't work in their favor, because what the 7th ritual is basically the medieval torture device of, I forget what it's actually called, but you're tied to...
The rack. I don't know.
You're tied to a board and... stretched until you die.
Yeah, but in this case, it's plants that stretch in the sunlight. Conveniently for the Doctor, Ramon, and Rom Dutt, it starts raining, and then the Doctor suddenly...
Okay.
Okay.
This scene,
hang on.
I want to explain a couple things about this scene. First of all, the Doctor complains about the architecture in the room. Subtle hint to the terrible sets? I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, they're tied to vines which stretch them out in the sunlight, like you mentioned, and which it's basically a Bond trap where they're going to be killed slowly when something, or like the one in Indiana Jones, where they're about to be killed when the sun filters into the room, dries out the vines, and stretches them, but it starts raining.
And then the Doctor...
This was just stupid.
All of a sudden, there's just this high-pitched tone.
You don't know what it is at first, right? I mean,
no, I didn't. I was like, what? I thought maybe Dudley Simpson was having a field day on the synthesizer. putting together the incidental music. It's like, this would be really funny.
Well, it was really funny for all the wrong reasons.
It's funny because it's the Doctor pulling out some opera something, and he breaks the glass window in the room, and then it starts raining on them, and then that, I guess that moistens the vines, so it undoes all their stretching.
Yeah.
Then they escape.
And then they cut through the vines. So unlike Sarah in Android Invasion, they can cut through vines. Oh, but I guess those ones were artificial vines, and these ones are natural. So, oh no, it was artificial ivy, my bad. These are just vines.
That.
I'm still holding a grudge. No.
Let it go.
Anyway.
So they escape and they head out onto the swamp, and the Doctor's like, don't move, because he hears Kroll coming, and somehow he's deduced that Kroll moves based on hearing vibrations in the swamp water. And then Ram Dutt moves and the swamp kills him, and the Doctor and Amana seem completely unconcerned.
Like, they see him die.
In the worst acted scene of Tom's entire era, I would almost venture to say. And
Mary Tam's worst delivered line in her series of increasingly more terribly delivered lines. She's like, she just looks back and she's like, oh, what a horrible way to die.
And the Doctor, with Tom Baker, just goes, I told him not to move. Pretty much delivered exactly like that. And they have this face of just complete non-concern. Like, you didn't just go through this near-death experience with this guy, right? No, he's just some random dude, you know.
Well, in all fairness, he was making all these comments like, oh, I think my ankles are breaking.
That doesn't make it okay.
No, it really doesn't.
Because not only is it poorly acted, it's out of character for the Doctor.
And, well, maybe not Romana.
Romana to a lesser extent, but still out of character.
Yeah. Well, this brings up the point that Mary Tam's acting is just going down the road of completely seeming like she doesn't care anymore.
Tom's rubbing off on her.
Or you mean she's rubbing...
Both ways.
Both ways?
I think they both
don't care anymore.
I think Tom is starting to stop caring because he's been on the program for so long, but he keeps doing it because it's the steady pay job type thing. And Mary Tam just came in being Mary Tam, I guess. I don't know. Maybe she's also just stopped caring.
Quicker than Tom Baker did. K9 is the only hope left for this show.
At least they care enough to make it convincing that they're playing these characters, except in that one scene.
Except apparently Tom Baker's just playing himself, as I've heard. And I wouldn't be surprised if Mary Tam is either.
I just saw this interview the other day where Tom, I guess at the conclusion of his run, was talking to this guy and was like, so what do you think about playing the Doctor? He's like, well, anyone can really do it, you know, the way the character is constructed. And he's just sitting there like sideways on the chair. He's got like one foot on the chair. I'm like, okay, yeah, Tom's really just playing himself, isn't he?
Anyway, they decide to head back to the base because we forgot about the missile strike that's about to go down.
Well, no, episode 3 ends with the Doctor and Amanda rowing away in a boat down the swamp while some swampies get killed by Kroll.
Oh, yeah.
In episode 4, they arrive at the base because Thawne has decided he's going to kill off anyone who's not with him for killing the monster Kroll, and Dugeen is like, if you do that, the bomb will just wipe out all life on this moon, and that includes us, you know.
He's like, I don't care. No, it won't. And then, if they couldn't make the themes and underlying tones of this serial any more blatantly obvious, Dugeen makes this whole speech that ends with, all life is precious. And he presses the button at gunpoint to stop the countdown and gets shot by Thawne.
And dies.
Yep.
Poor Dugeen. The button doesn't work because Romana and the Doctor are actually in the rocket bay. Okay, so they actually had this not stellar acting scene either, where they're saying goodbye to each other, and Tom's like, I guess it's time to say goodbye now, and Romana's like, yep, goodbye. And Doc's like, goodbye.
Yeah, I didn't understand that scene. She says goodbye, and then she's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm gonna follow you.
Neither did I. I was like, wait, what? Huh? Anyway, they go in, they cut the wire, and the rocket stops at 001 or something.
003. For once, it doesn't stop at 001. Also wanted to make a point of that countdown clock because it's the most underwhelming countdown clock I've ever seen.
It's like one of those old alarm clocks with the flippy numbers.
Yeah, we'll post a picture of it or something.
Okay.
Wouldn't even know it was from the show because the sets are so terrible. Well, I guess you would know it was from the show because of that. You know, you see the terrible set and you're like, oh, it's from Doctor Who. Anyway.
Yeah, and then Thawne goes down and is like, what are you guys doing here? And he's like, well, we were just closing the door. Shouldn't leave the door open if the rocket's going off, right?
And he's like, well, who opened the door? And he's like, it was Romana, no.
And then, because they're padding the runtime, which actually, by the way, that brings up a good point. All these episodes ran under by about 2 minutes. And not only that, featured at least like 90-second recaps of the previous episode.
Yeah, they did the whole War Games thing where they go back more than a minute. Sucks that every serial that Philip Maddock, or whatever his last name, is in, does that.
I mean, yeah, like, they did that and the episodes are only like 21 minutes each, well under the average 23.
Yet they had so many plot threads that they could have expanded upon. Oh well.
Anyway, yeah, like I was saying, in this obvious padding scene, they just kind of stand and the Doctor goes, I think you forgot to tell us not to make any sudden movements. And he's like, right, don't make any sudden movements. And the Doctor's like, good. And then they go out. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a doctorish thing to do, I guess, but it felt like runtime padding.
Well, the whole
fourth episode was runtime padding.
After they stopped the bomb, it was basically Princess Peladon getting kidnapped again. Or Queen Peladon, or whatever her name was. Speaking of which, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I wonder why they made Romana such a damsel in distress in episode 1, because she's never been characterized like that.
I mean, it's kind of touching on what I was talking about with David Fisher's serials, where she just keeps getting captured and runs away and doesn't do anything productive. Like, she got captured last week, too, in the first, 10 minutes.
I guess. Last week, she was actually... Well, her capture contributed to the plot with the dialogue she had with her captors.
I guess, but it was like...
But this week, it was worse.
I was really referring to that second capture in the house, where she just escapes to help the Doctor escape and then immediately gets captured again.
Yeah, well, that was kind of also touched upon again when they lost the scanner and then found it immediately. Whatever.
I don't know. They're running Romana into the ground, and it's sad because I was actually just starting to like her last week. Actually, I liked her from when she came in. Look, liking and saying she's the best companion ever on different planes of existence.
Yeah, well, as a successor to Leela, she's not really proving herself. Anyway...
At least she has funny banter with K9 and the Doctor.
I guess. The bomb actually isn't stopped, or something, or it's another bomb. I really didn't know, because somehow the clock has started again.
What I had thought... Or what? What's his name? The only
guy
member who's left because Thawne actually gets killed by a Swampy.
The Swampies invade. He gets killed by Rankin, I assume.
And he's like, okay, well, because of the way we run this plant, we actually do these orbital strikes every day or something. But apparently, they don't blow up the whole planet. But now it'll blow up the base because the launching bay is jammed.
Something like that. Meanwhile, Kroll is attacking, so perfect timing.
So the Doctor cuts some wires.
Yeah, Rankin runs off to go appease Kroll and let him know that he shouldn't kill the Swampies because they worship him, and he gets killed by Kroll.
Yeah. And all the other Swampies are like, okay, well, guess Kroll's not this all-powerful god thing we thought he was.
Yeah, well, they knew that before. Mm-hmm. Rankin was pretty much just insane.
And
then the Doctor cuts the wires, and he's like, hope this works, and he touches some wires together, and it works. He stops the countdown clock at 0.
Forgot to mention the funny thing he actually does when he's stopping the rocket. He opens the control panel, it's like, well, if you don't know which one to cut, just cut him all, and pulls out a miniature pickaxe and just slams it in the control panel, and it explodes in his face. Anyway, yeah, he stops the rocket, goes to Kroll, tells Romana goodbye again, gives her a scarf, because I guess it's just getting in the way of everything now. He does something.
He touches the scanner to Kroll, and it turns into the key of time. because that's what the amulet. Well, I guess Kroll blows up, basically, because there's all these little pieces of Kroll at the end. But I didn't actually know if they were pieces of Kroll because the doctor's like, no, those are just normal pieces of normal giant squids.
It was really confusing because he swallowed the amulet, right? Which is the piece of the key to time.
Yeah, that's what made him super powerful and super huge.
But like, how did he touch the scanner to the piece of the key to time?
He didn't. He just aimed
how
it at
did
Kroll.
Kroll die?
I don't know.
understand. And then they just end it, basically. The Doctor and Amanda wander around the swamp for a bit and get back to the TARDIS.
Yeah, they end it like, I wonder what K9 did while we were gone. And they dematerialize.
Probably a book about that. K9's Adventure in the TARDIS.
And it's probably
better than this serial.
I wasn't about to say better, because I actually liked this serial.
Better than this serial.
I was going to say...
Better than this serial.
No, I wasn't going to say that, but never mind. So, yeah.
More interesting than the serial.
Obvious problems aside, I actually liked this serial.
I didn't. I found it tremendously uninteresting and just boring. Really. It was just go from here to there, back again with no clear motivation and no clear tie-in to the overarching plotline they've been trying to establish for 4 serials now. And I say trying to establish because they've been doing it with varying degrees of success.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that. Maybe not to the extent that you didn't like it. There were obvious problems, which we mentioned. But, I don't know, for some reason I found myself still enjoying this.
I will caveat by saying I might have just had a difficult time paying attention because of other things going on this week. I had a lot of things going on this week, and that might have played into why I didn't like it so much. But at the same time, the plot was just kind of underwhelming. Personally.
Yeah, I don't think I would disagree with that.
I
was entertained, though, and I can't say why. I guess I liked the... Maybe not the overarching plot, but maybe just some of the things they did, like, oh, they're about to die, and they have this stretcher thing, and oh, Kroll, and it swallowed the amulet. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't that great, but...
I can see what you liked about it. I think I just wanted them to do more with it. I think they had some good subplots there, which is kind of every time we have a serial that's underwhelming or bad, we come out and say, you know, there was good things here that they could have done more with.
Yeah, and that's often why we dislike a serial, because they introduce some things that we think they're going to go somewhere with, and they don't. Like Mensch.
Or a lot of other things. You know, what could have been interesting for the serial was actually seeing Kroll swallow the amulet, so maybe they figure out it's the piece. And then, like, Kroll swallows it in a cliffhanger, and like, oh no, what are we gonna do? Now we've got this giant squid thing. Like, maybe it swallows it, and then it gets bigger, and I don't know.
That could have been cool, but I think the main point here is that this really shouldn't have been a Key to Time serial, because it could have stood on its own as something else. I mean, maybe...
That's what it was trying to do anyway.
Yeah. Well... This could have been a random serial in a random season without the Key to Time at all, and it still would have made sense. It really was not an integral part of this serial at all.
Yeah, and I think that touches upon something that we also mentioned in the David Fisher serials, that it's kind of like they're writing regular serials and then trying to shoehorn them into this overarching subplot / super plot. Would that be the term?
Overarching plotline, season-long story arc? I don't know. Well, that was the main problem with this and androids.
Yeah.
In my opinion, they did it pretty well before. I mean, well, Stones of Blood was, but...
Yeah. I'm just hoping that next week is a satisfying conclusion to said arc.
Oh, you'll see.
Jeez, how much of the plot of next week do you know? Did you spoil the entire plot?
No, you'll see. You'll see.
What? Yeah, I'll find out next week while we're recording. You'll be like, yeah, I knew this was coming. I'm like, okay. Like 5 minutes later, I knew this was coming.
No, I actually didn't spoil the entire thing, but I spoiled some pretty major things.
Well, it's a 6-part serial, the final 6-part serial before the unbroadcast shada that we haven't decided if we're watching or not still.
I mean, I assume we're going to watch it at some point.
Probably.
But that might not be soon.
I think the question is whether or not we're going to watch it in its rightful place within the season that it...
Yeah.
In its place as a season finale that it was meant to be, or if we'll watch it later as like a special or something, I think is the decision that'll need to be made. I don't know, this is not Robert Holmes' best work, this serial. Actually, that brings up an interesting point that I'm glad I said that and reminded myself. I think he doesn't actually write another serial till the 6th Doctor's era. I think he takes a couple years off. Maybe because
Well, let's see.
the serial... Oh, no, he writes the Fifth Doctor's Regeneration serial. Yeah, so he doesn't write another serial for a good 4 or 5 years now. And I think he needs the break, to be honest. I think he needs the time off. Other than that, I guess that's all we have to say about this. Email us at thedoctordecadavegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters. Your thoughts on Kroll.
Do you worship Kroll? If you do, you should stop, because he's not a god, he's just a squid.
He's just a squid. Check us out on YouTube at Trust Your Doctor. Check us out on iTunes at Trust Your Doctor. I just somehow received an email the other day actually about YouTube, about them copyright notice about that Susan retrospective that we already knew was copyright. That we already removed for some reason. But you should check out the new version of that. The new, it's like a year old now. That has cool visuals and stuff. Yeah. Oh, and don't forget to check out our 2-year special. That's right, we've been doing this thing for 2 whole years. It's going out the same day as this, actually. I guess roughly 12 hours from when this went out. That sounds like good time.
Right, listen to us make predictions about the future of Trust Your Doctor and also of Doctor Who. And if you've already seen the rest of the classic series that we haven't, you already know what happens, but we don't.
And you get to laugh at all our predictions. Haha. Not that we don't do that in the show anyway, if you'd laugh at. But yeah, it goes out on the anniversary of our first episode, which happens to be January 24th. So that's why it's going out the same day as this. So check it out. YouTube, Trust Your Doctor. iTunes, Trust Your Doctor. Rating.
Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Twitter, Trust Your Doctor. Next week, Armageddon Factor. Until then, the end.